Hi, my name is Aubrey and I ohm. I'm 34 years old. I live in New York City and I'm a content creator for the Institute of Ohm. When I started ohming, I felt like my desire was a burden in general. Just anything I wanted, let alone related to my genitals, but just in general. I thought it was a burden, or I thought it was something like, if it was something somebody else also wanted, then I could bargain with it. I just pretty much thought I had to handle my own desire and try to find people who wanted the same thing or convince people to give it to me in relationship, in sex, in whatever I felt beneath and less than. Before I remember being in a 6-year relationship with somebody, and I always had my attention on him and trying to make sure he had everything he needed in the relationship. I generally felt like my wants, needs, desires were burdensome and probably felt kind of irritating to him, and that if I came out with them too much or talked about them too much, it was about this fundamental core belief that I had that my desire was wrong. That entire way of seeing my desire and relating with men came to a head and came to a finish a few years ago. I got married and I was in this really compressed, intense situation with me and him and this dynamic where I believe my desire is wrong and bad. This time when it went south, it just went really south. We had a business together and we had our lives really overlapping in all these different ways, and it was just a super gloriously awful fall from grace. And it affected a lot of people and it affected a lot of things, and it was just heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. It was like that place where it's such a deep realization of a pattern. I just cry out to God to help and take that thing away, because I can see it. It's like I could just see it and I didn't have any power over it. There was those first months when it's like a descent into just the worst. It led to a really natural resolve in me to have a spine, to have an actual spine, which is something that I just didn't really have before that. I remember a year or two into my ohming practice, I still felt really uncomfortable with the idea that it was one-sided, that I was going to be stroked in this attentive, amazing way, and that I wasn't going to return the favor or ever be required to return the favor. I just thought, that's crazy. I just couldn't believe that it could be one-sided and that they were getting as much out of it as I was. In my ohming practice, I remember in the beginning, I didn't know how to ask for what I wanted very well at all, in any way. I would have the experience of having a very clear intuition. It would be like a little voice, and it would say, I want the stroke to be a little to the left. I was scared that my desire was going to feel irritating to my strokers, and so I hid it. As I would come out with it more and more, they would calmly make the adjustment, and then there would be all this sensation in the ohm. The whole thing would light up. My clitoris would feel like it was melting, and my whole body would feel electric, and everything would the lights would get brighter in the room, and I would just be like, wow. And we would share frames afterwards, and I noticed also that he would often share a frame from the moment I made the adjustment. He would say, oh, that moment about halfway through the ohm where you said to go a little bit to the left, and then I did it, I felt this jolt of electricity in my finger as soon as I made the adjustment. And I'm just like, this is bonkers. When I am asking for my desire, it is making this ohm infinitely better for both of us, and that is crazy. That was a big realization for me and a big experience of receptivity, of just opening to being able to receive something that deeply and that well without having to give anything in return, without having to pay something in return. I used to subtly grovel. I had a whole set of different tactics to try to ensure that a man's attention would stay on me. And now I feel really in my body and in myself. I feel like, I know it sounds a little cheesy, but I feel like I'm my own best friend now.
And I really show up for myself in all these spots where I get a little scared or I need a little extra attention. All those little spots that I used to look to somebody else to try to fill, I feel like I show up for myself in all of those places now. I have my home located in my own body now, no matter what. And I have my sexuality and my, my like orgasm and everything like located in my body now, no matter what. I just don't feel like I have to do those things anymore to make sure I get something. I feel whole. My name is Aubrey and I Om.